Oh,
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 it was deleted on. Oh, okay.
we have a countdown. Oh, so you're going to ask me questions first, or am I going to ask you questions first when we
Oh,
get to
wait. Hold on. View. It says, looks like this broadcast was deleted onto stream. You create a new broadcast or just remove this destination. All right. I'm not going to be on YouTube then.
Oh, screw you two.
I think we're live.
Really?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Right. We have. No, yeah. I think we should be live. I think because it's a count up. It's a count up.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Let me see if I see it in my notifications, huh?
Yeah.
Yep, we're live.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Okay. So, welcome to Seeking Utopia with myself, Tosca Di Matteo, and Margot Schulman, my co-host and relationship coach. So yeah, we're excited because this is like the first time that we are doing this. And so pardon technological learning curves here, but hopefully it'll be good. Hi, Grace. Thanks for joining. Yes, we realize we have gone live. So that's great. So anyway, Margot, I'd love to just, like we talked about this before, just doing some quick introductions about like, who are you? What do you do? All that good stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. So my name is Margot Schulman, and I am a love and relationship coach. And that means a lot of different things to different people. What I really focus on is a few things. One, I see the whole world in terms of relationships. So to me, it always starts with all of us with our relationship to ourselves. How are we communicating with ourselves? How do we feel about ourselves? You know, what are we doing to care for ourselves? How are we treating ourselves? How are we showing ourselves love and compassion and trust? And then from that relationship, then we start expanding into all of the other super important relationships, right? So whether it's relationship to our careers, relationships to our romantic partners, to our kids, to our parents, to our siblings. And one of the things, that you and I talk a lot about is that it has to be practical, right? Like the tools that I give people, the advice, the support, it's always got to be what is actually going to help someone have a happier life. What's going to help someone just feel more joy and peace in their everyday life, or else what the heck is the point, right? I mean, that's the point. That's what we all want, is to feel good and to feel happy and to feel peaceful no matter what craziness is happening in our lives or in the bigger world around us. Um, and so one of the things that I like about what I do is that the same tools that we can work on in our relationship with ourselves, we can then use in all our relationships. So it's not like we're trying to constantly learn new ways of being or new ways of relating. It's all the same sort of practices and patterns that we can start working with, and that makes it easier, which is good because we like easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? Everything being super easy. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm just blessed to have experienced your coaching myself. And so I know, what deep work you do with people. And that's why I'm excited to be partnering here with you and helping other people through the journey together in this, format that we're kind of experimenting with. And for those of you who are watching who don't know who I am, I'm Tosca Di Matteo, and I'm a career coach, and I'm a marketing consultant. And my passion is to really help people be their authentic selves, people and brands. Really, it's the same in terms of really diving deep and understanding our truths, who we really are, so that we can like live from that place fully and freely, and be our true selves in all of our environments. I focus on the career coaching as the pathway to kind of unlocking your life and getting unstuck. But, for me, when you can honor all your superpowers and all your strengths and all that, it just allows you to live a much fuller life because you don't have any dissonance with yourself. You've like accepted it, and I'm passionate about that because of my own journey of realizing what parts of myself I hid, and the person that I was becoming in corporate environments, over the course of 20 years, and being like, how can I just honor who I am wherever I am and let that shine unapologetically. So I've been on my own journey of that as well, and I want to help other people to do that. So, and a big part of my journey, like we were talking about today, is the stories that we tell ourselves. I was telling myself all kinds of stories for years, and I didn't even know like they were just stories and they weren't true, So I'm excited to talk about that today and help some other people on their path.
Awesome. Yeah, so I know we wanted to talk about why we chose this topic of, what bullshit story are you tired of telling yourself about your career possibilities? Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Maybe about one of the ones in your past that was a big one, or you had a big aha moment of like, holy shit, this was just a story, and I've been believing it as truth for a long time.
My stories were really wrapped up around feeling like, I think a big story that I told myself was that because I didn't look like the others, whoever those others were in my mind at any given moment, because I didn't look like that, because I didn't have what they had aesthetically, then I couldn't, have the kind of mega success that I saw other people having. And that really clouded a lot of my journey. And it wasn't until very recently that I realized where that came from. And I remember being told when I was a teenager, oh, you can do anything that you want except be a model. And I think subconsciously, how I interpreted that was, I am going to be limited in possibilities because I don't have this aesthetic, this look. And again, it wasn't until recently I'm like, where did this shit come from about my limiting belief about, how I could be successful or not. So, yeah, but that's been a story I've been tearing down. I didn't know it, but that's kind of the story I've been trying to tear down for years about my possibilities. Yeah,
that's a big one.
How about you? Like,
Yeah, I mean, in career, there's been so many. But I mean, when you were talking about yours, one that I've been noticing more and more recently is the story that I couldn't bring all of myself to my coaching, and specifically the part of me that gets really angry, the part of me that sees all of the problems in the world and in our country and gets really pissed off about it. Because I had seen, right, we've all seen this sort of woo-woo self-help type, which is like, just, be in the light and focus on the good, right? And you can have anything you want if you just like envision and stay in the light and all this stuff. And I tried. There was a period in my life where I tried to be that person, and I kept failing because it wasn't authentic to me. But then I would feel shame or guilt, or like there was something wrong with me that I couldn't just always be in the light and always focus on the positive. It took me a long time to realize that that's actually not reality, right? The reality is that life is very, very hard for most of us, that life throws shit in our faces, and that is the reality. And that to deny that reality is just, not only is it not true, but it's not actually helpful. And that for me, what I had to come to was that I can bring my anger, I can bring my awareness of the injustices in the world to my coaching, and to help other people do the same thing, because it can be so paralyzing, right? So if we spend too much time focusing on all of the troubles in the world, it's very easy to feel like, well, I'm just going to throw my hands up and sit on my couch and not try to make a difference at all, because it can be so overwhelming. And so I'm really passionate about helping people hold both, right? Like hold the reality that life is difficult, that there's shitty things happening all over the world at the same time. And I can still focus on the light as much as possible. I can do my best. I can shine my light in the world. I can make a difference on a small scale or a large scale, right? Like that we can do both. We don't have to ignore the shadow sides of ourselves or the world. And really, like, how powerful anger is when it's channeled into, action for good, when it's channeled into, doing something useful in the world.
Yeah, it's like what stuck out for me there was, when you talk about, the darkness and the light, right? And like being able to honor all your emotions in the work that you do. And certainly I know, like, that whole rage and that emotion, that especially for women is a difficult one to express and let be fully expressed. We might give ourselves this much permission, but then, and part of it is, I think, societal, and I think part of it is the story that we tell ourselves about what will happen if I let this go. So yeah. And I just, for anybody who's on and watching, like, feel free to post a comment or question as we're going along. Like, our goal is to get to that and answer them. And I know we do have some questions that were seeded in advance. But yeah, where should we go from here then, Margot, with this conversation about the stories that we tell ourselves? And if you happen to be in the wings and want to go on live on this platform, by all means, let me know. We have a couple people that were possibly going to join us live. But yeah, what do you think, Margot? How do we want to proceed here?
Well, there are a couple of questions that I had for you that I thought of ahead of time that, again, in the interest of giving really practical, helpful advice to people, I would love to ask you about.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready and willing.
Awesome. So, you work with career, and I know you've made big shifts in your career in the past. And so one thing I know that I've thought of, and that I hear from a lot of people, a lot of friends and colleagues, is how do you know if that voice, right? We've all heard about that voice that's like, go be a pilot, or go be an artist, right? Or like that voice that whispers in your head that tells you to do something else from what you're doing, right? Or go start your own company, or go start your own coaching business. How do we know when the voices in our head that are whispering things like that we should follow them, that it's a good idea to follow them, or that how do we know if they're just like the crazy part of ourselves that we should totally ignore and not follow its advice?
Oh yeah. I think that there are things in life, right, that nag us like for years sometimes, right? It's like this this whisper of a voice that is our truth. And for me, I've realized that that is my intuition, right? So part of the journey was in honoring what was deep down inside that kept saying to me that, like, there's got to be more than this, than this life I've been living in corporate for 20 years, that there's got to be a way that my full potential can be fully expressed. But there was a lot of voices, right? And it wasn't saying to me, go start your own business. It was saying, like, your wings are clipped, in so many words. And yeah, I'm like losing track of the question. I want to make sure that I'm like getting to the crux of it.
Yeah. Well, you said there were so many different voices, right?
Yeah.
So how did you know which voice to listen to?
It was the voice that came from my heart center, right? So delineating between the rational mind voices and the one that was in my heart saying, like, it's time to go. And the reality was, I heard that voice, like, you just got to go. But it took me months to really embody that and really have my whole self realize, like, yes, like, I had to fully be in that. It was this place, and it was like very heavily protected, and my mind was like taking over all the time,
Yeah.
And like, you really helped me through that journey, as well, of like getting out all the head voices of looking at the head voices and saying, oh shit, that's not really me. That's like other voices telling me that this isn't right, like voices like, oh, this is such a privileged thing to do, or like, oh, like, how will you ever make this salary again, stuff like that. So it's like, I knew that the voice was coming from my heart because my body was like, right, I was just like paying attention to my body, was just not excited to go in. My body was like this isn't bringing you joy. My body was like, yeah, like, not, and I'm an enthusiastic person, and it just got to the point where it's just like, why am I getting out of bed, like, for this? Like, there's got to be more, so that's, I don't know, that's as concise as I can kind of knock it down. But it's not to say it was easy either. Like, I was definitely wrestling with myself for a while, because that head can be real strong with the messaging,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can all relate to that too. And I think that brings us to, to the point where we could talk a bit more about what we mean by stories, and yeah, like, how do you define that? How do you define when we say listening to the stories, or the stories I made up about my career? How would you define those?
I would define them as truly a story, and not based in fact, right? That if I really tore it apart, I would be like, oh, but actually, I can't really say that there's a fact in there. Yeah. And I think it's it's story kind of, to me, looks like justification. It looks like contraction and not expansiveness, right? Because there's different stories we can tell ourselves. We can tell our stories that expand, and we can tell our stories that extract. And I think the ones that we're talking about today are the ones that really constrict us. So yeah. How about you? Like, how would you, for you, like, how do you define the stories for yourself?
Yeah, I think what you said is perfect. And it reminds me of, it's interesting. The other day I was looking up like quotes about stories, for our little promo images. And what came up was about the power of story, right? How we, as humans, we tell stories. That's how we, that's how we pass along history, and that's how we create meaning in our lives and all this stuff. And as a writer, and a big reader, I believe in the power of story when it's defined that way. And so I was thinking about that, like, there's like, I don't want to put it as the good stories and the bad stories. So I was trying to understand deeper that whole, just the whole idea of stories. And I think what it comes down to is, like you said, the stories, like, we have to investigate the stories, right? We have to look at them and say, are we 100%, am I 100% sure that this story is true? Is there a fact in this story? And if there isn't, I think the next question is this story going to help me? Or is it going to harm me? Is this story going to help me live my best life? Is this story going to help me bring more good into the world or not, right? And so to try to get away from the judgment of like, this is a bad story or a good story, and just come at it from a more questioning view. I think that's right, because like you alluded to, there are stories that we can tell ourselves that are not true, but there could be something that we're aspiring towards, right? Like, I could tell myself the story that I'm, a millionaire. That is not a fact. There is no truth in that. But if it inspires me, if it helps me work towards a useful goal, I could choose to tell myself that story. So, recognizing, being able to kind of wade through, right? I'm like seeing an image of like a murky ocean with lots of seaweed, and we had all of the stories are seaweed, and we have to really, carefully, consciously wade through them, and see how they're affecting us, and see how they're affecting the world around us too, right? I think we've been all seeing a lot of stories, that are separating us from our neighbors, separating us from other people that we thought we knew or thought that we loved, and now we're creating stories about other people as well, and that gets very dangerous.
Yeah, and actually, we have somebody in the wings that wants to come on and ask a question about storytelling. So shall we do that now?
Yeah.
Margot's like, yeah, let's do it. All right, we're gonna bring on Shige.
Woo!
Hi, Shige.
Shige from London.
Woo!
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. No, but I really appreciate it. Appreciate it, Tasca and Margot. Hello, I know Tasca. Great to meet you, Margot. I've heard great things.
You too.
And I just really appreciate the authenticity and transparency and guidance you guys are providing on this. So I'm glad I could participate. And I was just thinking about what you guys were saying about voices. And I do want to say that the voices that come to me, I don't actually act on them until things are just really hard and difficult in that current environment. So it's coming from a place of desperation. And I don't know if I always make the right choices. And I'm sure even people can sense that people that think that when I'm invested into something that not necessarily is my passion, but I'm working at it and I'm vibrating on an okay level. I'm operating at a somewhat okay level, but I'm kind of autopilot. When things are okay, I'm just, I don't take action, but I still hear those voices, but they're not as loud. And I told Tasca about this earlier. We had a conversation about it, and I just want to say that I want to act when I feel like when I'm in a good place. And so my question is that I do think that voices that are in your head, but there's also voices from my friends, from my mentors, from coaches, mentors, and there's great information out there and stuff out there, resources, content, blah blah blah. There's just a mixture of voices. And what I want to know is how do you think people or yourself should turn all these great gems of information and voices and resources into action, but just not when it's from a place of desperation?
Hmm. Hmm. Can I ask a question? A follow-up?
Yes, please.
So why do you not want to act from a place of desperation?
Because I'm afraid that I will just take the first shiny object versus what's really aligned with my heart. So I'm not speaking abstract. An example is, let's say and this has happened, where I lost my job due to redundancy, and I was just taking it. I was looking at any job to pay rent, to pay the bills, but I don't know if it was necessarily the right job for me, and I quickly found out it wasn't. And then I looked for a new job after that. So that's why this might not be the best choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, what came to me hearing you talk about that was that if I was coaching you, or if we were friends and you were in that space, what I would say to you is to ask yourself what you learned from that experience, to try to still take away the shame or the judgment on yourself for making whatever choice you made. So you said you chose that first job that came in. Okay, right? You did, you needed to pay the rent, so you chose that job. There's nothing wrong with that. So then you quickly determined that was not the best job. Good for you, right? So to be able to look at all of the positives that that happened through that, you learned what was wrong with that job. You learned that you could quickly get a job, though, which is really positive, right? You learned that you could quickly leave a job and get a new one when that one wasn't working. So I guess what I'm saying is, sometimes when we act out of desperation, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? You're still learning things about yourself. You're still learning you're learning what you needed to learn in that moment. And it got you moving forward, which I think, again, so it's so easy to feel to feel stuck. Someone else might have just not gotten a job at all, and then gone into this spiral of self-doubt and worry and fear, and maybe even a financial crisis because they couldn't act at all because they were so afraid of making the wrong choice. But you can celebrate that you didn't get stuck. You moved forward, and that took you to a different choice and a different choice. And yeah.
Good reminder just to be kind to myself,
Yeah.
And I was proactive. Yeah. I was definitely, yeah. I was a go-getter.
Yeah, and I love the interrogation that Margot was putting in there, which is what are we, that we're judging ourselves for our actions in the moment, right? And what is that extra layer of judgment do to us? And the other thing that came to mind, Shige, with what you were saying is that, for me, I need to really get quiet with myself and understand what it is that I truly want. And that might mean some, some of the external chatter goes away because I can realize, oh, I don't really want that. And also, it helps me get clear on what tension do I feel about not taking action or taking action. Because maybe the tension is actually just a feeling that I'm used to, feeling like I should go. When in actuality, when I sit with myself, I can say, well, yeah, the comfortable thing is to take action, but actually what I'm needing right now is to not take an action. So that's just another, I think, tool in the toolbox, which is getting quiet enough with ourselves to hear what our own guidance is saying. Yeah. I don't know if that brings up anything for you.
No, yeah. I was just thinking to pause, to reflect. I was thinking about, I always talk about how great meditation is, but I don't do enough of it. So, yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I can actually look at my my voices head on and be like, all right, so what are you trying to tell me? So
yeah, one of my teachers created this image and talked to us about it, about the idea of imagining that you have like a council room in your inside where you consciously invite everybody to come in and have a voice. And what's interesting about that is a lot of times the voices that we most try to ignore are the ones that get the loudest, right? Because they just want to be heard. And a lot of times those are the more frightened parts of us, right? Like for instance, in the case of losing your job, of course, there's going to be a very loud voice that's like, what if I can't pay rent? What if I'm homeless? What if right? Because fear talks really loud, and it comes from that part of ourselves. But as a conscious person, we often try to ignore that fearful voice because we're like, no, that's not the voice I want to hear. But if we can, instead of trying to ignore it and push it aside, we can be like, I'm going to give you time to talk too, right? Let it talk, and then it calms down a little, and then the volume of the deeper, more heart-centered or more intuitive voices, whatever you want to call them, they have a chance to speak up because those, the other ones aren't chattering as loudly.
I like that. I was just thinking about just visually bringing fear and anxiety and love and all these different sort of voices to the table, having tea with the tea.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have to say? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a real power in, we're kind of doing hybrid, like this is like kind of hybrid coaching, kind of hybrid, wisdom sharing. And there's a real power in having somebody be able to hold space for you to have have those conversations with those different parts of yourself, and be able to come back to the holistic Shige, the one that is all knowing, that knows how to take in all of your parts and then find clarity in there. So I just say that because it's certainly you can do it on your own in terms of whatever works for you. The journaling exercise, maybe it's literally looking at the mirror and say, all right, fear, let me talk to you, I mean, Margot, I don't know if you have any other, ideas for how you could do this work on your own, but also even, even in this time, whether it's a coach that understands this, or even if it's a friend and say, look, friend, I'm going to try this thing, because whatever the resources are that you have, use them to do this in a way that can, help you see all these parts that are yearning to be heard and understood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, did you have anything to add on that, Margot? I mean,
the journaling is great. I love the idea of asking a friend, to hold this space for you, and you can say really clearly, I'm not looking for your advice right now. I love you, but you could even say, I already have your voice in my head. If you're a close friend, I don't need your voice now. Can you just, hold the space for me to have this conversation? And you can do it internally too, and just close your eyes and, visualize, like we said, visualize that room. Everyone has a cup of tea, or everyone has a glass of wine, or whatever it is. And it's just like this relaxed chance to, to have a conversation. And you can also feel, one other thing I guess I would say too is, you can think about another time in your past that you can look back on as a time where you made a decision that felt really aligned and really right for you. And then say, how did I know it was right for me? Like, what did I feel in my body that let me know this was, exactly what I needed? And kind of bring yourself back to that state, that internal body state, to be able to make another choice from that aligned place.
I like it. Good exercises for me. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And tomorrow is a full moon, so what a great time to let that energy rise to the surface and be released what needs to be released in terms of what's going on internally, the internal. Yeah. Well, anything else, Shige, to help you feel complete with your question before you hop off here? Or
no, well, I was talking about all the noise and how do you wade through it, and we talked about that. And then we also talked about reframing and removing the shoulds and being hard on myself, and just like actually celebrating the act of being proactive and looking for opportunities. And I like that a lot. And I think just the third piece that we talked about lately was just more about I'm wanting to take action. I don't know if there's a right time, but like not waiting till the last minute and when I'm about to crash, sort of thing. And it sounded like what I was getting from both of your gems of knowledge is to practice meditation, pause, and don't do that when you're at your low point. Do that like when you're great and happy, and that might look different for different people. Meditation, it could be prayer, it could be I don't know, just literally just sitting down, or cooking. It could be active meditation, it could be walking. So I think we did cover all three really elements that I was looking for. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, great. The last thing that kind of came to mind as you were sharing that last piece was it's like identifying. You talked about being in that situation, not waiting, and as you look back at your patterns, I would, one thing you could do is ask yourself, what was the situation? And see what patterns were there that might help you uncover why you chose to take action when you did. Again, from a place of non-judgment, I have all these examples now, and now I can say, where is the thread? And that might just provide more information so that you can see it earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can still make the same choice to wait, or you can say, what will best serve me now in this moment?
Yeah. The small bits. Like, for example, when I'm in high stress, I either gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight, sort of thing. So if I see that pattern of me not, skipping the gym or stress eating now, I don't have to wait till I gain 10 pounds, to figure out, okay, something's not, I think there's that pattern starting to form again. So that's a good, gosh, all this free coaching. I love it.
Time moment. No, I'm just kidding.
Notes.
I'm so grateful for your courage, your vulnerability to come on and share such a great question that I'm sure other viewers, whether they're watching live or later, will get so much value and benefit from. So thank you, Shige. This has been really great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We hope to see you next time. And I'm gonna pop you off the stream, and we got some mail-in questions, and we'll start to dive into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Oh,
that was fun.
Yeah, it's so fun to be able to just hear from somebody live and be able to work through. Everybody, it's just so individual, so unique, right? What we're all dealing with and the tools that can help us as individuals. You know, I loved all the ideas, because what works for somebody may not work for may not work for somebody else. Or as you start experimenting, I think part of it is like not giving up, like, oh, what, that didn't work, and not saying, well, fuck it, I don't know what's going to work, but rather saying, like, okay, let me try another tool in the toolbox,
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that ability to not give up comes from trusting ourselves and having enough commitment to ourselves to say, I'm not going to give up on this, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's the career that I want, or, being healthier, going to the gym, exercising, having the relationship of your dreams. People give up when they think they're not worth, fighting for. And so, yeah, we have to come back to that. Like, I trust myself. Okay, this didn't work. It doesn't, not creating a story too around why that one thing didn't work, right? Okay, journaling didn't work for you. That doesn't mean anything. It just means journaling didn't work for you.
Right.
It doesn't even mean journaling won't work for you next year, right? Maybe it will.
Or next time, or tomorrow.
Right.
Like, yeah. It's like stopping the story before it starts. It's, it's just keeping it facts. It didn't work this time, period.
Exactly.
Yeah. So should we move on to like some of the mail-in questions? Or?
Sure. Yeah.
Have
them in front of you?
I'm sorry?
Do you have them up?
Yes, I do. So I love this. We had some really great questions with some great context. And the first one I'll just kind of read from Molly is, the story I tell myself is that becoming too successful is going to rob me of my freedom, because it's going to bog me down with a lot of responsibilities and throw my life out of balance. It seems like the way out of the story is to keep me moving forward little by little and being conscious of the decisions I make along the way, which is what I am doing. However, it also feels like this story keeps me playing small, because I'm afraid of too many opportunities coming all at once and whisking me away into a lifestyle that I can't keep up with and don't like. I'd love to hear your perspective for how to move out of this fear of success story.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And that's when I still work with in myself. I find the most helpful is to start with the recognition that that fear, or the way to move through that fear, is you have to work in the body. A lot of people, there's a lot of tools out there to kind of push through your fears through through various means. But to me, fear is so visceral. You have to deal with it on a body somatic level, because that's where we feel it, right? Like, that's why fear is paralyzing, because even just talking about it, like, I feel it in my body right in this moment. I get, like, my throat feels tight. I can feel fluttery in my chest. My shoulders start feeling like this, right? Like, it's real, and it's very intense. So recognizing that you got to deal with it on a body level, and then to do exercises and practices to consciously do a few things. One is to work with the fear, so that when you start to feel fear in your body, it doesn't shut you down. So one of my favorite practices that I created, that I use a lot with people, and I've been sharing it a lot because it feels so important, especially right now when there's so much fear, is a practice where you close your eyes and you breathe, you get into a more mindful state, and you consciously allow a memory or a situation that's causing you fear to come up in your body, with a coach there, right? Or with a friend who you trust, so that you're safe. And you speak it, and you say, I feel this in my body. I feel that in my body, right? And then consciously bring up a memory of a time where you felt totally safe and loved, and speak that out loud. And again, notice what's happening in your body. So, for me, often when I do, because I do this practice all the time, what often comes up when I feel completely safe and loved is an image of me, snuggling with my two kids, where they're just like, I can feel their hands on my face, and I can feel their arms around me, and we're cozy and warm, and I let myself stay in that memory and really feel what's happening in my body, right? And I feel my heart rate slow down, and I feel my shoulders relax, and I feel my breathing getting steadier. And then going back and forth to recognize that whichever state I'm in, whether it's the fear state or the safety state, I'm in control. I can control, and I can go back and forth, and that it doesn't have to feel as overwhelming, because I can literally get myself out of the fear state when I need to. And that's hard, that it's not like you can do that automatically, but to start doing practices like that, on the basic level, to recognize that the fear is just another feeling, right? And it's very strong, and it's super powerful, and you can work to control it, and you can work to not be overwhelmed by it, and not let it block you. And what's really nice too about working with fear in that way is that it snowballs, so that the more you work with it, the less power it has to block you, the easier it gets, and just the more free you are. It doesn't stop you from feeling fear, it just makes it easier to not let it overwhelm.
I love that. I love that you approach this from a somatic standpoint. And I think that I just want to pause a little bit on that, because I think that's something that's probably new for a lot of people, in terms of breaking our stories, or even as a healing modality, as a way that we move through things, right? Like, people know about therapy and coaching, and and then there's this whole oh, right, and I have a body, and it retains everything, and it is all knowing. I mean, heck, women have babies, and we never were taught how to do it. Our body knows, it's so how do we tap into that to help us with whatever we're experiencing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is so many of us are so disconnected from our bodies because of a million reasons, because our bodies have been traumatized, because our bodies do hold fear, because we've been body shamed, because there's so many things that cause us to because that's our bodies feel pain, right? Just the very basic, we've all been in pain, right? Physical pain at some point or another. So it's, again, to not judge ourselves that we've disconnected, and that we choose things that help us feel numb in our bodies, or that's the human normal way, and there's no judgment about that. And the good news is that we can safely come back. We can use our bodies to heal all of that.
Yeah, and I just want to offer up, for those watching, as of course, Margot brought up, some ways to work with this. There's also different kinds of There's dancing, right? Dancing is a body related modality to get things out. There's cranial sacral therapy, which is something that I've been doing for several years, which really helped me break through. And there's acupuncture, right? There's all kinds of things out there. There's yoga. I remember one of my early yoga sessions, the woman was like, okay, move your left leg to your whatever. And I moved my right leg. Like, it just showed like how disconnected I was. That I couldn't process like, oh, my body is like, so I just want to offer that as like, there's cardio, kickboxing, like just all kinds of stuff. There's some that are in the just realm of move your body and let it do what it needs to do. And there's also practitioners that can really help you in identifying, like, where are you holding the fear, and how do we work through that in a way that's not from here, but in a way that you can listen to your body and do that. So
thank you for that. And one of the first tools I ever learned, and this was before I became a relationship coach or anything, I think it was actually from when I did nutritional coaching, was a very simple exercise that you can do in the shower where you just touch yourself with love, right? Like, you just consciously, like you would a child, right? Like, tell yourself you're safe, and stroke your own hair, stroke your own face, like give your own body the love that you would give a scared child. Seems like such a not such a novel idea to give ourselves the love that we would give to a loved one, but how many of us do that?
Right. I'm over here going, yes. For the woman who asked this question, get in the shower. I'd be like, I will be just fine on Oprah. I will be just fine when I have more clients than I can handle. I'll figure it out, Like, I'm just like, yes, tell ourselves, those stories, like, when we cross those bridges, like, yes, and I have everything I need now and always. And so let me embrace that and know that whatever comes at me, the money bags, the success, that I will stay grounded because I know myself and I love myself, and I won't get away from that,
Yeah. Thank you for bringing us back to the question. And it doesn't have to be the shower. You can do that like in bed, super snugly in your warm bed, and you can say like, I make millions of dollars and I'm safe, and and I'm loved, and I am on Oprah and I am safe and loved, and whatever the particular things are, do it in a way, just again, like if someone else were going to snuggle you, or someone else was going to comfort you, what would you most want? What would feel most soothing, and make you feel the most safe and okay, and then do that.
I love that we're having this conversation on LinkedIn Live, because I think that this is like, like so important for people that are building businesses. It's just a huge crowd that's on here, right? Like, to jump in and dive in and allow yourself to play big. We need that now more than ever, for sure. People to push past fear, and embrace uncertainty. And I know, like, there was another question. Should I ask this other one? See how far we can get with this with our time left. Okay. So I totally relate to this question. A story that I tell myself is that no matter what I create in my career, it's never going to live up to my big dreams. Sometimes I'm able to suspend that limiting belief and stay in the mystery of what's possible. And other times it feels like I'm beating myself up for experiencing such a huge discrepancy between my current circumstance and dreams, which makes it more challenging to feel good about whatever progress I do make. I understand that it's important to celebrate your progress every step of the way, and I do to an extent, but I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface, and that feeling seems to dominate a lot of the time. My way forward here is to trust in God's plan for my life and live from a state of joy, love, and abundance, regardless of the external conditions. I'm curious to hear what your perspective is on how to feel good about where I am at and not fall into the trap of comparing to where I want to be. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly she's doing some deep work because she has a great understanding of herself and what happens for her in this realm. But I'd love to hear.
Well, I want to hear what you
Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
I know, I'm so predictable. Well, you said it's one that you struggle with, so yeah.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm like, I don't know how to help you. No. I think that, I think that one of the things that I do is try to ask myself the opposite. Like what would happen if I did live up to my aspirations? What would I do now? If that were to happen and I knew it and it was certain, it was done, and how would I live my life knowing that? So like flipping, right? Like flipping the narrative. And I think that, also like how I measure my journey has been imperative. How do I really want to measure the steps that I'm taking? And I think when I've really been able to step into that, to what really, really matters, then it becomes easier to celebrate because I'm like, I did touch somebody's life today. Like I was brave. I did push through my fear. Like I tried something new. Like, and I think getting to the deeper stuff of like, what is it you really want? I think can help you to make those celebrations easier and easier because you will feel it. You will feel like, the hell yeah, I did it. And that is what matters to me, and through those truly things that matter, right? Like you are building the abundance and all the rest will come. I don't know. That's just, that's my visceral reaction to that. And also the comparing, I shut it off. I am like, no, I'm not looking at what that coach is offering. No, I'm not I'm not looking at how they position no. I just have to shut that shit off because it doesn't serve me to let myself be bombarded with where other people are at and what they're doing. But also the flip side of that is if I do want to let that in, then I want to interrogate what am I jealous of? And only let myself interrogate that. So let me find information. Let me find information in what I'm comparing and why, and I think that helps me to say, okay, now I know what I need to do because I really want that thing, Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I could go on and on because this is a big topic. This is a really big topic. And this time, this factor of time, I feel that too, right? Which is like, but I'm, however years old I am, or, oh, I'm X years into my career or whatever. And then we tell ourselves stories about what it means that you are right there. And it becomes very hard for us to be in an acceptance of that because we are bombarded by messages of, this is what should be happening, and it's all baloney. Like these, I talk about it in my stuff, right? Which is a 30 under 30 list and 40 under 40 and all these messages around like, well, if you're not early, then you're late. Well, then let me be late, because, because I can't be anywhere else but where I am right now. That acceptance, I think, is something to come back to again and again, because that is truth. You can't be anywhere other than where you are right now. And maybe there's a mantra there. Maybe there's an affirmation is like, every day I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to feel into that. Even if it doesn't feel true, but how can you create an affirmation or a mantra that feels approachable. Because I'm not one about like, you know, putting those affirmations out there that you can't even touch, you can't even, you know, remotely believe yet. Bring it close where it just feels like, ooh, that's kind of uncomfortable, but I'm yeah, like I'm feeling it, you know. I don't know how you feel about that stuff, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, I love all that. Yeah, and the only thing I would add is to get out of the thinking or the story that it has to be one or the other, you know, and to, again, allow yourself to be in the and, right? You can celebrate where you are right now and want something else for the future. You know, the only problem people feel is when they start denying one, right? Like, oh, if I'm thinking too much about the future, I'm not appreciating the now, or if I'm too in the now, I'm not working hard enough for the future. And we all get in our heads about that. What should I be doing? Should I be doing more affirmations, or should I be, doing more gratitudes about where I am right now? What should I be doing? Just no shoulds, right? Just you are here, and that has to be perfect because that's what's happening. And you want something else for tomorrow, or you want something else for next month or next year, or whatever it is. Both are okay. You can have both of those. Yeah.
I love that. I feel like that's such an awesome note to end that kind of Q&A on. You can it's like just create the and.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it. You can have both of those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Well, I can't believe here we are, our very first Seeking Utopia. I'm excited that we're going to do 3 more of these same time, same channel. Although I think we're going to try to expand to the link to the YouTube live next time. And but again, for those of you who don't know, I'm Tosca Di Matteo. I'm a coach and consultant, and Margot is my beautiful co-host, who's a relationship coach and women's empowerment coach, and right? What else? An author of Choose Love.
Oh, yes.
We talked about.
Oh.
Yes.
And we'd love to, we will be back here next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern again. We will be still in the topic of seeking utopia. And that means to us, finding your way of living your best life, having the most joy and peace and fun and pleasure and love and compassion in your life as possible, with everything, career, relationships, health, everything. So we'll be diving more into that and taking more questions and having guest people in again, which was super fun. And our emails are here, our websites are here if you want to find out more about us, and or message us on LinkedIn, because that's
where we are. That's what we do. I love it. You know what? It's so funny. So I do Feisty on Friday, just about every Friday. And you know what I was going to do it on? And it came up today, which is like this, when do you give up? Because I think people are giving up on stuff a little too early, whether we're talking about voting or whether we're talking about stopping wearing masks, because people are just like throwing up their hands. And I'm like, no, like this is not when we give up. So anyway, I was like, okay, synchronicity, definitely that's going to be the topic. So
nice.
Yeah, IG Live, find me there. All right, well, Margo, this was amazing. I can't wait to see you here next week.
Yay!
Ciao for now. Bye.